supersede, overrides, or beat out what we want in life. Irregardless, and this is going to be crazy coming from a pastor now. Irregardless of how much you pray, how much you fast, and how much you go to church, none of that will override the will of God. It doesn't matter if you wake up in the morning and pray about the issue, if you pray on your lunch hour, if you go to bed praying. There is nothing that we can do that's going to make or negate the will of God. I'm going to work with this moment. Yeah. All right. We got to understand that God's will in our lives is always supreme over our thoughts and whatever we want in life. We can pray in the morning, in the noonday, at night, but we got to understand that God's will always be done. I think what the psalmist said, give us this day our daily bread. And what we have to do is depend on God to supply for us and give us what we want and need on any given day. Amen. Too many times we have found ourselves in issues and situations and we don't quite understand why things are going the way they're going. Amen. Because we know what we want. We know what we pray for. And what we pray for is what we want. And we don't understand why it is that God didn't give us what we want. Why did God let it turn out like that? When I went to church and the preacher said that all you got to do is pray about it, tell God, and God will answer prayer. Well, this is going to sound crazy coming from a preacher. God does not have to answer your prayer. Amen. Boy, that's heavy right now. Because we done went to church, and for years we done heard the preachers and the deacons say, did you get prayer about it? But we got to understand that God reserves the right not to answer our prayer. Now let me make sure I'm talking to the right folk. Anybody here ever prayed for something and what you prayed for you didn't get? Amen. I'm trying to tell y'all. But even with God not answering our prayers, it still does not make him a bad God. Amen. Because when you look at what God gave us that you didn't ask for, it's still better than what you prayed for and you didn't get it. Amen. How many times in life, and I ain't talking about nobody, I'm just talking about what I'm talking about. How many times in life have we had loved ones sit on their bed of affliction? We go to the bedside, we go to hospitals, and we pray, Lord, just let them get better. We get the prayer warriors, we get the prayer band, we get the preachers and the deacons involved because, we've been taught and we've understood that God answers prayer, that there's power in the majority. We've heard it. Amen. So now everybody is praying that the situation get better, but rather than the situation get better, it get worse. Amen. And we said, we got so much faith in God, and you should have faith in God, that God gonna let everything be all right. And that's probably something else we need to stop telling folks everything gonna be all right. What do you do when everything is not all right? Talk more. What do you do when you pray for a loved one to get better? When you pray for them to be healed, when you pray for them to be delivered, and God does not answer your prayer? Can I tell y'all what we have to do? We have to accept that the will of God is going to be done. We got to get to the point to where we understand that there are some things in life we can't do anything about. It doesn't matter how we cry, we fall down prostrate. There are some things in life, I'm trying to help somebody, you can't do nothing about what God let happen. You can't do it. You can't, and I don't care how close anybody is to God. Don't ever let nobody think that their prayers are much more superior than your prayers. Because you got some folks who make you think that when they pray, they sit right next to God. And you just come over here and we just pray about it. Yeah, that's good. But if you know God, you won't be able to talk to God yourself. Every child of God ought to have a praying relationship with God that you can go to God for yourself, by yourself, with yourself, with whatever you're dealing with in life. And it ain't just sickness, it ain't just death. There have been those who have worked hard to build a business and build a career. You went to school, you got your degree, and you're making $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year, and you living on Easy Street. Everything is going good, but don't get too comfortable. Because the rug can get pulled off from under you at any give it a second. Don't get too complacent thinking that stuff can't happen to you, because the Bible said that things can change in the twinkling of an eye. In other words, do you know before you bat your eye, your whole life can change? It used to be that people used to say you could be up today and down tomorrow. But you can be up today and before nightfall, you find yourself on your bed of affliction, talk walker. So you got to understand that even if you lose your job, you got to understand that God is still good. If something happened to you and you can't fulfill your career, that does not mean that God does not answer prayer. We got to understand that we've got to accept the will of God. Now this next one, I don't expect to get many amens. I don't expect to get no hand claps. But even when it comes down to friendships, kinships, and relationships, we've got to accept the will of God. Because too often times, God knows the ending before the beginning. We look at what's going on right now, but God has already looked 20, 30 years into the future. Know what's going to happen, and you got to understand that whatever happens in our life is working for your good. Talk to me, somebody. We don't understand how it's working for our good because we don't see that. We don't understand why it is that kinfolk fall out and can't talk. Because y'all like saying, you know, family, all you got. Blood thicker than water, not in all cases. Brother Walker, you ain't got no. Yes, I do, because you got to be honest with the folk. You got to understand that I don't care how close you and your cousin are, or how y'all grew together and y'all played together and slept in the same bed. That don't mean y'all gonna always be close. Okay, can I prove that to y'all in the Bible? Because y'all want it. But if I prove it to you, will you accept it? When you read the book of Genesis, chapter 13, verses 1 through 18, you'll find out that God told Abraham, he said, Abraham, leave your kindreds. God tell Abraham to leave his kinfolk. Do you know that sometimes those who are closest to you can do the most damage? God tell Abraham, leave your kinfolks and go to a world that I'm going to show you, because God knows your kinfolk going to be your downfall. Your kinfolk going to see how I'm blessing you, and all the thing they're going to want to do is tell you, can I borrow? Can I have? Can you give me? Can you limit? And they ain't going to think about paying you back. Now, God knew that. So God tell Abraham, they're not worshiping me, they're not praising me. I don't want them to have none of my blessings. Leave them. And every now and then, as hard as it is, you got to leave some kinfolk sometimes.